Hi everyone, this is Miss S from Excelsior Charter School, and today we're going to be covering Geometry, Quarter 3, Quiz 4. And just like all the quizzes, I've changed the values a little bit, but you can go ahead and follow along. This is actually 3 different questions on your quiz here, but they just want to know what the ratios are for each of these. So to begin with, we need to remember our SOHCAHTOAs. So remember that the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So the tangent of angle C, remember we're going to start here at angle C, and you want to go the opposite, in this case 7, over the adjacent, in this case 8. So the ratio for the tangent of C is simply 7 over 8. The sine of angle A will start here at angle A. The sine is the opposite, in this case 8, over the hypotenuse, which is always across from the right angle. So in this case, 9. So the sine of angle A is 8 over 9. And the cosine of angle C, again, remember we're going to start here at angle C. The cosine is the adjacent leg, or 8, over the hypotenuse, which is 9. So the cosine of angle C is 8 over 9. For our next question, they just want us to find the value of x, and we'll round to the nearest tenth. So this is very similar to what we just did here. We're going to start here at angle 42, and we're going to figure out which of the 3 sides we're going to be using. So from angle 42, the x side is actually all the way opposite, and the 19 is our hypotenuse. So opposite over hypotenuse, which is always the sine. So the sine of angle 42 will equal x over 19, and then we'll solve this using algebra. And what we get is 12.71 is approximately x, so to the nearest tenth, the answer would be 12.7. Our next question is the same, but we're going to use different trigonometry functions. We'll start here with angle 41. The 12 is the adjacent leg, the x is the hypotenuse. And if we're using the adjacent leg and the hypotenuse, we're going to actually use the cosine. So the cosine of 41 will equal the adjacent 12 over the hypotenuse x, and we'll solve this with algebra. And what we get is that x is approximately 15.9. For our next question, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're actually looking for the angle, which means we're going to have to use the inverse of our trig functions. So notice we're not using the hypotenuse at all in this one. And from angle x, we would go the opposite and the adjacent. And when we have the opposite and the adjacent, we're always using the tangent. So the tangent of angle x would equal 23 over 17. And when we solve, what we get is that the angle is approximately 53.53. So our answer would be 53.5. Except they ask us for the nearest degree, which would actually make this 54. Our next question also wants us to solve for x, but they've given us a different way here. Here they've used the angle of depression of 15. And if we know that this makes a right angle, because it's a horizontal line here, we know that 90 minus 15 is 75. So this angle inside the triangle is actually 75 degrees. And we can use this angle here of 75. We'll go opposite leg, which is 130, and the x is actually the hypotenuse. And opposite and hypotenuse is always the sine. So the sine of 75 is 130 over x, and then we'll solve this using algebra. And what we get is that x is approximately 134.59, which rounds to 134.6. Our next question wants us to determine which expressions can be used to find the length of AB. And first, they ask us about the sine of angle A. Remember, the sine would be the opposite over the hypotenuse, opposite over hypotenuse. So from angle A, the opposite would be 7, and the hypotenuse would be 23, which won't tell us anything at all about side AB over here. So this one's a no. And next they ask us about the tangent of angle C. And angle C over here, the tangent, remember, is the opposite over the adjacent. So from angle C, the opposite would be side AB, and the adjacent would be 7. And using algebra, we would multiply both sides by 7. And since we were looking for side AB, 7 times the tangent of C would give us AB. So this one is correct. The next one wants to know about the cosine of A. And remember, the cosine is always the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So from angle A right here, the adjacent leg would be AB, and the hypotenuse would be 23. So using algebra, 23 times the cosine of A would give us side AB. So this one is a yes. And for this last one, they want to know about the tangent of angle A. So remember, the tangent is always the opposite over the adjacent. So technically 7 over AB would give us the tangent of A. However, when you do the algebra, instead of 7 times the tangent of A to get us AB, it's actually 7 divided by the tangent of A would get us the length for AB. So this one is a no. And then our last question says you're standing 12 feet away from the base of a tree, and you measure the angle of elevation to the top of the tree to between 30 and 50 degrees. You can't be exact. What are the possible heights of the tree? To do this question, you are simply going to find how far the highest part of the tree would be if the angle of elevation is 30, and then if the angle of elevation is 50. And any measurements between those two would be potentially accurate measurements. Anything outside of those two would be unreasonable assumptions. So if we set it up using this triangle over here, you're 12 feet away from the green tree, your angle of elevation is 30, and we're looking for the height x. So from the 30, we would go the opposite over the adjacent. So we're actually looking for the tangent of angle 30, which would be x over 12. And then we'll solve this for x using algebra. And what you get is that x is approximately 6.9. So that would be the shortest the tree could possibly be. And then we'll do the same thing with the 50 degrees instead of the 30. And we set up our equation, the tangent of 50 equals x over 12, and solve this for x using algebra. And what we get is that x is approximately 14.3. So that would be the tallest that the tree could be. And any of the measurements that are between these two are acceptable, and anything smaller than 6.9 or greater than 14.3 would be unreasonable. Good luck, everybody. I hope you guys all do great.